Hey Bookworms, welcome back to my channel and to the last video in my October series. Throughout this month I reviewed classic Victorian horror novels, and we are finishing today with the odd man out of the series, a novella without a monster or an iconic character. Instead, we have a classic haunted house story, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. In this novel, a governess who doesn't have a name starts her new job in a mansion looking after two young orphans. The house is big and accommodating. The children are absolutely adorable. The housekeeper is a sweet-natured woman, and the entire estate is lovely with gardens and a little lake, and everything looks wonderful. Until the governess starts seeing a man on the estate and realizes that this is the late master's valet, who died although she keeps seeing him. The governess soon realizes that there are ghosts in the house and the children might be in danger, but she finds it hard to fight them when no one believes her because she is the only one who sees them. A little background story time. As I pondered which book I will review for this finale, I really did not want to review this one. You see, I already read it once when I was doing my BA in English, and I did a pro-seminar paper about it, and let's just say that I really did not get along with the lecturer. This entire course, and as a result this novella, left a bad taste in my mouth. But considering it's been like a decade since finishing with my BA, I decided to look at it with fresh eyes. Not to mention I did an entire paper on it, so I might put those notes to good use. So I forgot how awesome this book is. Seriously, it's just so good. The worst thing that I can say about it has nothing to do with the actual novella or the author. Unfortunately, so many elements from this book were subsequently used so often in other works that they became predictable and somewhat redundant. But as you read this novella, please remember that back then it was pretty innovative. It's also, as said, a novella, which means a very short read. I also love the characters, that is, all of them, even the children, and I really don't like children. The governess is such a wonderful protagonist and the only woman in our little October series, if you noticed. The book does have a few very interesting and unique feminist themes, and I will talk about them later because they have a bit of a twist to them. But generally speaking, a great book, a classic spooky ghost story. I had fun reading it and am glad I had a chance to revisit it. But now, as always, let's get into more details. As mentioned, I did do a paper on it, but I really wanted to condense what I have to say here. I don't want this video to take forever. I feel the genius of this book is on one hand to entertain us with a classic ghost story with all its tropes, while at the same time be so different and subversive. For example, when we first see the house through the governess's narrative, everything is so positive. The house is lovely, the children are angels, the staff is friendly. It's only later that we start getting under its skin. Also, it goes against your usual gothic novel with the helpless damsel in distress. The governess is a woman in a position of power. She's smart, she's good-hearted, but she's also very proactive. When she senses the children are in danger, she wants to act to save them. The main adults in charge are she and the housekeeper, Mrs. Gross, another woman. Also, I really love the voice of the governess. I can't understate that. I would have loved to be her friend, seriously. I should have put her on my list of best literary female characters. But I can't talk about the feminism of the story without referring to its twist. Okay, here goes. I don't do spoilers on this channel, but the novel does have a very surprising ending, and many of the book's interpretation referred to it. I thought about giving a timestamp for spoilers, but I decided against it and to leave this review spoiler-free. This novella is very famous and its ending is very infamous, so there is a chance that you already know what I'm referring to. So in regards to feminism and strong female characters of the governess, think about this in context of the ending, if you know what it is. What is then the message when you consider it? Maybe the message is actually against strong female characters? Okay, I'm done with the cryptic part of the video, ironically, considering a story like that. But another really cool theme in this novel has to do with the fact that throughout the novel there is a question of the existence of the ghosts. The governess, who tells the story in first person, knows what she sees, but no one else is seeing these ghosts, so that leaves us with the question of, are there really ghosts? Maybe she's just crazy. And since she's telling the story, it's very hard to tell. I believe this is one of the oldest and first examples of the possibly unreliable narrator, a trope that would be revived years later by books like The Girl on the Train and The Woman in the Window. Both of them I reviewed, by the way. Again, this is a case of a trope being so overused it loses its effect, but when it appeared in this book, it was really unique, and honestly, this trope was done so well in this novella. From the start, it felt like her possible imagining of these ghosts was an important point, as opposed to her being unreliable coming up at the last moment to shock us. But before I end, I do have some warning words toward those who want to read this book, aka negatives. There aren't many, however, I suppose the most annoying bit for me was some of the conversations in this novel that were so redundant and circular. Characters will purposely say something cryptic and would have to be beaten up for information. So you'll have conversation like these. I saw it. What? It. What? Well, it. And then she explains it. It happened a couple of times in the book and it drove me crazy. I mean, lady, we're in a novella. We're working on a tight schedule here. We don't have time for this. In addition, I also want to shortly mention the language in this book. Now, Victorian English was a little different than modern English, but mostly I managed pretty good. I have to say though that the language here was a bit of a challenge. There were words I didn't understand at times. So if you're not an English native speaker like me, be aware of that. And lastly, take it as a warning and not a negative, but if you like your stories to have a coherent ending with all the loose ends tied up all neatly, then you are reading the wrong book. As I mentioned, the ending is rather infamous, and without getting into details, I'll just say that it leaves you with a lot of food for thought and probably more questions and answers. If you hate that, rethink reading this book. I usually don't like loose ends, but I really recommend you still read The Turn of the Screw. It's worth it. So to conclude, this is a brilliant book. Even as a simple classic ghost story, it's a lot of fun and suspense. But the moment you really start thinking about it and interpreting it, you'll find yourself in an entirely different world. You may try to analyze it, but there's no definite solution or interpretation. Generally, there are two possible interpretations, but they are both plausible. I feel that the genius of the story is somewhat lost in the abundance of recent works based on the same concept. Of no fault of its own, this novella looks somewhat predictable today, but at the time it was groundbreaking. The putting of the governess as an authority figure, both as the woman in charge and as the narrator, but then questioning everything due to her possible mental state, is so clever. The whole question of feminism and how you can read it in two completely opposite ways is also brilliant. If you've seen my other videos this month, you probably realize why this one is a bit different from the others. It isn't a story about good versus evil, nor is there a clear monster here, other than the possible ghosts. It's less philosophical and more psychological, asking, what if I'm actually crazy? I feel like this novel was a psychological thriller, maybe without even knowing it. So guys, that was my review on The Turn of the Screw by Henry James and the ending of the Victorian Halloween series. I am so happy I did this. I read such amazing books throughout it. Make sure to stick around to my end of the year summary. I'm pretty sure I'll mention at least Frankenstein there. I hope you enjoyed this video and this series, and if you did, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any future videos. And also write me a comment in the comment section. Write if you ever read a book just because of a school assignment that made you really dislike it. Would you give this book another chance? Let me know. Guys, thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you next time. We go back to non-horror novels, but it would still be one written in the Victorian period. Stay tuned. Until next time, guys. Bye bye.